Welcome to the Simpler Business Podcast, where we talk about ways to do what you love and serve your people in a way that brings you income and freedom. I'm your host, Marissa Roberts. Join me as I chat with my favorite entrepreneurs about how they simplify their biz so that you can simplify yours. We're chatting with Tammy Guest today about business to match your gifts and talents. Tammy is a business and personal development mentor for entrepreneurs who don't like to conform to the norms of traditional business owners. Known for her innate ability to build momentum with online visibility and event hosting, Tammy shows her clients how to build a business they love, filled with customers they enjoy working with and experience success on their own terms. Welcome, Tammy.
Hello, it's great to talk to you today.
I'm so glad you're here because I have so much fun talking to you, because it's like every time we chat, it's like you see like right into my soul when it comes to things that I'm struggling with in business or things that I want to change or pivot. So I'm really, really excited for people to hear more about you today and your journey and your insights, and it's going to be awesome. And can I just say, when I talk about you and that saying on your own terms, I feel like that's the key when I talk to you. It's always about let's do things our own way. Let's do things that align with ourselves on our own terms. And I really, really love that, because I think a lot of us start our own business for personal reasons. We want to do something we enjoy. We want more freedom. And then we get stuck in that entrepreneur hamster wheel, right? Where we think we've given up the 9 to 5, but then we end up working from 6 a.m. till midnight, pretty much 7 days a week. Is that something you've come across too?
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely when it's your first business and nobody tells you, you've got this weird little frame in your head about what it's supposed to be like. And then you get kind of obsessive about it for a bit. And then apparently that's the thing, there's particular influencers that we see here, there and everywhere on social media who are all big on the hustle. And I really got swept up in that myself until adrenal fatigue hit me for a 6. And I've seen so many business owners in that whirlwind of adrenal fatigue because they're trying to live up to some weird expectation that's been set to hustle. And I reckon that it can be done differently. Yeah.
I totally agree. But I have to say I totally agree, because that's because of you, because every time you'll spot it in me when I'm burning myself out every time. We'll be at lunch and you'll be like, oh no, yeah, you're overdoing it. Or we'll all go out to dinner with friends and you'll be like, it's almost like you can, like they have like an aura around them and you can see who's kind of overdoing it at the moment that really doesn't have to. And it's really nice, because then our conversation tends to turn to how do we make that way easier and actually something you like doing. And I think that's such a beautiful focus, right? Because I mean, we're all out there to help other people, but then we've got to remember to help ourselves as well. And with entrepreneurs who are recommending like 12 posts a day on all of the platforms, and you've got to be 100% go all the time, and you've got to really stand out amongst everybody else. I'm just tired just saying that sentence.
Absolutely. And we're lucky enough to have friends that really know how to chill in their lives.
Definitely.
And it's great to be able to be around other business besties that have that mindset that things can be done differently. Things can be done easier. And of course, you and simplifying, you're always in the back of my head telling me to simplify. And often is the case as an entrepreneur, we'll go and do the exact opposite of that first so that we really feel like we totally understand why we really need to simplify. And then we finally simplify.
Yep, totally. Sometimes I get a bit too obsessed with simplifying though, and I find myself striving to simplify more. And then I have to take a step back and go, okay, the whole point of simplifying is taking it easy. You don't have to be so obsessed with it that you're thinking about it 24/7. But I guess that happens too when you really love the topic that you're working in, or the industry that you're working in, or the customers that you're working with. There is that sort of risk of becoming slightly obsessed with it. So for anyone listening out there who's kind of in that point in their business now where they're full on totally obsessed, could talk about it all day, people's eyes are glazing over when you mention it, don't worry. It gets a little more chill after a while, just as successful, but a little more chill.
Yeah, it does. But I think there's that initial point where You start to really dive deep into your customer, you really dive deep into your product, you really dive deep. And I think that's the thing about lining up your gifts and your talents with what you do. You don't have to do it the way that everybody else is doing it. You can really do it in a way that is more in alignment with the things that you really love. And I mean, there's so many things that, oh, here's a business in a box. You just create this way. Well, that's fine, but every one of us has a unique setup. We've got unique houses, we've got unique goals, we've got unique family lives, we've got unique gifts and talents, like these innate abilities and ways of doing things. And what I really love about you creating a podcast is I love talking to you. Everyone loves talking to you. And now it's like, of course, why aren't we all talking to one another? It's so good. Whereas some people might not like to be on videos. I know you've done so much YouTube over the years, but there are so many outlets now. There's so many ways of doing it. Why not do it the way that you are truly made to do it, and then expand on that? And I think showing up like that for something that matches your home life, for something that matches your ideals. My ideals of flying a helicopter around the world doesn't quite match with everybody else's, but I absolutely love being up in the sky. And the only way to support that is to have a business that supports that. And I think we get that opportunity to do business our way. And I don't think it needs to be done in that business in a box kind of way.
Yeah, I totally agree. I just feel like even if we're sticking with the box analogy, I'm like, there's so many different kinds of boxes. Yes. So many different kinds, and they get bigger and smaller depending on what we're going through in life. I think one thing that I find people struggle with, though, is recognizing what that talent or gift is and how they're going to use that to actually make their business more powerful. So how would you say, if you've got somebody who's going, okay, great, I do want a business that aligns with my gifts and my strengths and my talents, but how do I know if it's an actual talent or if it's just something I like to do? Is there a distinction between them?
Yeah, great question. So what I found with taking hundreds of business owners away on retreats is that we dive deep into this a lot. And even in my online programs, one of the easiest, quickest things, and I know that it's in so many business ideas, is who around you knows you that can tell you, because it's so hard for us to talk about ourselves and identify things in ourselves. I was literally talking to you just prior to the call about that exact thing. It's so interesting to turn the mirror on us, but somebody who knows us is going to be more valuable to us to tell us what our talents are, what we're talented at. And so one of the things that I've got my mentees to do before is to pop up the good old question on social media, and it creates that visibility. What do you think? What do you find that I'm talented at? And then all of a sudden, yes, you'll get the random jokes and blah 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 from Granddad and whoever else is in your feed, but there's always some client that you've had or somebody that you've helped in your very unique, specific way that has something really profound to say about you. And it's a really amazing opportunity to get visible, but also start to understand, oh, that's where it might lie. And it just kind of kicks it off. Then in our retreats, we dive a bit deeper by doing personality profiling tools. I've used over my time so many different ones: the fascination test, the strengths finder test, we've got DISC, we've got Enneagram, we've got so many different things. Even good old astrology can give us something that we can start to play with. And my background being a scientist and a cancer researcher, I love just running an experiment. I'll just try this personality on. I'll just try this feeling on, this personality profile tool on. I'll try this archetype on, and then see what it feels like. And if it feels and it resonates and it doesn't feel heavy, then it's very likely that that's part of your gifts and your talents profile.
That's such a good way to look at it, as an experiment, because I think we have a tendency to get emotionally tied to our identity, right? And kind of, you get this feeling sometimes that you always have to be the person that you always have been even though your life changes and your experience changes and your skills and capabilities grow, it's really hard to get out of that tiny little box that you put yourself in when you're really young, right? So that idea of calling it, you know, an experiment and just kind of stepping back emotionally from the outcome and going, I'm just going to see what it's like to try that. Let's just see what that feels like as a fit on me. And knowing that you've got the freedom to change your mind, I think that's a really big thing. And in the world of the internet and the technology that we have at home these days, it's so easy to try new things without getting completely invested financially or emotionally now. So, yeah, I really love that part.
Yeah. And I really think that there's a lot to be said about having experiments in your business in general. I know that I help a lot of mentees that freak out that they want to do all of the things. You know, we've been told we've got to be on every social media, like you mentioned before, 12 times a day, and blah, 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 blah. Well, why not run an experiment? See how that goes for a month. And if you're burnt out at the end, you should probably not do that.
It's so funny you said that, because that was going to be my next question. There's so many must-dos out there. Like, you can take any entrepreneurial course, and we've taken a lot of really good ones. I think we've taken quite a lot of the same ones too. And you get so much out of them. But one thing that I always notice is there's always a huge list of things that you have to do, because if you don't do it, something bad is going to happen, or you know, you're leaving money on the table, or you're missing a big opportunity. And there's so much fear in those sort of sentences that we all think, okay, I've got to get my email list up and running. I need to be on every single platform. I need to do audio, video, live video, paid advertising, PR. I got to do speaking gigs. I've got to host a summit. There's so many things, right? And so I just think, you know, as business owners, how do we really know what sort of advice to follow? Because we do want to grow our business, but we also want to be flexible, and we don't want to feel trapped doing stuff just because everybody else is doing it and telling us to do it. So how would you advise people on, you know, where to start? Like, how to kind of trim that down? Is it really just dip a toe in, or?
Yeah, so I feel like when I fly a helicopter, I have to do some checks, and I have to have a bit of a plan before I go. Otherwise, I'm going to not be allowed to leave the airport, for starters, because you've got to actually hand in your plan. You've got to hand in your flight plan, so that if anything weird or wacky happens, and you fall out of the sky, for instance, they know where to look. And the thing about creating a flight plan, some goal that you want to work towards, is that it's nice and clear on the horizon. And when I fly a helicopter, I have to do some little checks to begin with. And I go, oh, yes, these things are absolutely critical to me starting the thing. And we go through a little checklist of, okay, what is absolutely critical? Well, I need something to push the engine to go. Right, well, need something to make me some money. So I have to have something. I've got my product. So once you've got something and offering something to invite people to, that's great. So the engine starts spinning. But then you've also got to get yourself off the ground. Getting yourself off the ground takes way more fuel and way more energy than actually just flying through the air. Oh. And in actual fact, in rocket speak, it's actually 80% of the fuel is used to get out of the Earth's orbit, and only 20% is used up in space and around and to get back down again.
Far out.
And it feels the same in business. It feels like, oh my gosh, I've got to learn all these things. I've got to do all this stuff. I've got to, But you do have to get a lot more oomph to begin with. But once you're up and you've got your flight plan and you're thinking about your goal and you know the direction that you're headed in your goal, then you can start to play around. And it's one of my favorite things about being in a helicopter. You can, you know, do a little turn or dive, and you can go around in a circle or an orbit around something really interesting, like some of the amazing mountains ranges that we have nearby have huge aerials on them, and you can just kind of go around. But because you've got this flight plan, you then clock back on to the heading that you were taking in the first place, and you get back on that heading, and then you end up where you need to be. And I really think that the fun can be had by having these little experiments and little orbits and little yumminess in your business. And it doesn't mean you just have to keep going round and round and round in circles. It means try that out, see what the view is from there, and then clock back onto your heading and make sure that everything's fine to get to where you wanted to go.
I love that. So you've got your plan and you know exactly where you're headed, but it's okay to have that little bit of flexibility, a little bit of fun, a little bit of freedom, try different things, see if you enjoy them. That's such good advice, because I'm naturally that person who knows what I want to go for, and I just there's one straight line, right? And I completely, you know what it's like when I don't know horses very well, but you know how, like they put those things on so that the horse can't get distracted and they just go forward. That's me in business. I completely forget about hang on a minute, while you're up in the sky, you might as well look around at the view. I'm more like, no, I filmed this. I've got to edit it and get it up there, and I've got to talk to that person, tweak this bio and blah, blah, blah. You're right. We've got to actually allow space for the flexibility and the fun if we're actually going to find out what we enjoy about how we run our business, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's the other thing about trying to be on everything all at once. We have 4 beautiful seasons of a year. I don't like to call them quarters because I just don't like to do old school business stuff. So we have these 4 seasons in a year, and I really think they have an energy about them. And each season you could try a different social media platform. Each season you could try a different medium to audio or visual, or create your videos, or try a podcast, or start to create blog posts or PDFs or opt-ins or downloads, and run the experiment every quarter. And then by the end of the year, you've gone and done little orbits around here, and you've taken your little dive around here, and then you've gone really high up to see and you're like, I didn't like that one. I'm never doing that again. Or, this is my jam. I'm going to be a podcast forever. What experiment could I run next year? Yeah.
I love that. It just takes the pressure off completely. And I think you're right. If you kind of change around the way you do things, I think also what happens is you end up drilling down on what your core message is, just because you're kind of doing that in all these different ways. It's like you kind of zero in on exactly who you are and what you're aiming for by doing all these different things anyway, because that seems to be the one common factor. Like when I talk about simplifying, right? I've got 2 businesses. One is simplifying life for mums, and the other is simplifying business for entrepreneurs. And it took me ages to realize that was the common thread between the 2. I just thought I was really good at editing stuff and typing stuff and putting stuff on autopilot. And then I thought I was really good at tidying bedrooms and organizing wardrobes. It took maybe 6 years to go, simplifying.
Yeah, I was the same. I was giving people permission in their health and their well-being as a naturopath, and I was giving them freedom in their body and freedom in their choices about how they would look after themselves. And then I, as a business mentor for naturopaths, it was freedom when I would take people away on masterminds and retreats in places and spaces. And now, running events, huge events with hundreds of people and it's all about freedom. You don't realize until you've done it time and time and time again at every different angle and version of it. Yeah.
So true. So true. So do you want to share what your business model is like right now? Like, I know we always add things and pivot, but what's working for you at the moment, especially now that a lot of us are kind of stuck indoors and just starting to peak out again?
Yeah, so mine's shifted and changed, particularly over the past 5 years, and definitely within the past 2 months, because events and gatherings are a really big part of what I do. I really feel a magic that happens. Talking about gifts and talents, I feel like there is some type of magic that happens when I can bring a group of people together, and we take people 4 times a year in different places and spaces all over the world to dive deep and explore what they want their lives and businesses to be like. And so obviously that's had to be on pause. So that part of it is great, and I'm really still having that positive anticipation and looking forward to it. It's great to be able to have that on the horizon. But I run a mastermind, so I love being able to serve people on a kind of a deeper dive level for a long period of time, taking people on a bit of a journey inside as well as outside. And so we do a 6-month mastermind, and people find that through my big group online. So I have a big group for natural health practitioners, and I've also got an exploration group, and it's about exploring inside and outside. So yeah,
cool.
For me, my business model is about gathering people and going on exploration. And I've run experiments too. I ran my journey for 12 months instead of my normal 6 months. And what I started to realize was, nope, I peter out.
Peter out at 6 months, yeah.
Yeah. And so I got to bring it all back in and do things that were in alignment with me and my family. So, yeah.
That's such a good example of tweaking it a little bit to align with what you need. Because if you were doing something for 12 months and you know you peter out at around 6 months, then it's kind of like you're just placeholding for that other 6 months. And you want to give all the value while you're passionate and, excited and really on for that first 6 months. Yeah, I can see why that would be so much more appealing than just conforming to the usual 12-month mastermind or 3-season podcast or, whatever people think is the norm for that sort of thing. I think you lose that sort of momentum once you get to that point where you're like, I've given you guys all my gold. I'm here to support you, but we've already shared the gold.
Yeah.
And then you don't want that pressure of, I've got to keep digging for gold, because I'm like, no, the gold you've got is amazing. Give people a chance to work with it. Yeah, exactly.
That's right. Yeah. What do you want to create out of all that gold?
Yeah. Yeah, you can't just lock it away in a room and never use it. True. Yeah. Well, that was so insightful. Thank you very much. You are one of my favorite examples of being able to work in a field that you love and tweak it to suit you, right? So I know, when we first met, right, I remember you had your own practice and you were serving people one-on-one. Even then you would blow my mind. I remember I went and saw you once and you were like, we did some sort of test, like a pinprick test, and you were like, you haven't eaten lunch yet, have you? And I was like, whoa. How do you know all my secrets? I have no science background whatsoever. So I figure it's something to do with science. But it's like you just have this way of working with people one-on-one where you really speak right to the center of what they need in that moment. And then I've watched you over the last, how many years have we been friends for? Like 8? I think it's like 8, 6.
8 or 9, maybe even 10. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Gee, that time went fast. But over those years, I've watched as you built your own practice and then it just took off and then you sold it and you moved into like mentoring and coaching. And now you're moving, with retreats and events, and now you're moving even higher into the online space. And I'm like, it's so amazing because the thing that you've still got in common with all of those different scenarios is the way you speak to people, and it's like you get right to them. Like you can, I'll listen to a podcast episode and feel like you're talking right to me, or I'll watch you on video and feel like I'm the only person in the room, and it's amazing. So I'm really excited to see what the next 12 months shows for you, especially if life has changed and in-person things are on hold for the moment. That sort of in limbo feeling we all have. I think I'd be really excited to see how you approach that, because you just have this way of like shining a light and everyone else is like, oh, I think I'll try that too. I think I'll give it a go and actually enjoy what I'm doing.
Well, that's my hope, that everybody does get to really see an opportunity and enjoy what they're doing too. And so that they can really live a life that is full of whatever their style of adventure and simplicity looks like.
Yeah. Oh, that's lovely. All right. So for people who have just met you today, Tammy, where do they find out more about you? Is your website the best place to go, or socials? Where do you hang out the most?
Yeah. So I'm weekly on my website, tammyguest.com, and I love Instagram. I love seeing beautiful things. So it's Tammy Guest with an S on the end at Instagram.
Nice. All right, everybody. So that's where you can find more from Tammy. Hope you've enjoyed our talk today. I have. It's like first thing in the morning for us right now, and I'm so excited to move through the rest of my day. Except for, the boring stuff like doing the washing, because I'm still stuck at home at the moment. But yeah, this has been fantastic. Thank you. That helicopter example is going to stay with me, I think. That whole, go straight up, but then also take space and look around. That was really insightful. So thank you so much for sharing everything with us today. I really, really enjoyed the chat. I hope you did too.
I totally did. Thank you so much, Marissa. Epic questions, and it was so much fun. Thanks heaps.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Simpler Business Podcast. If you did, please subscribe, rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. There's a link in the show notes to make it nice and easy for you, just the way we like it. If you're ready to simplify and scale your business, you can get started with my free audio class at marissaroberts.com. See you next time.